The shoes are really dirty. Did you hear that?
I like your shoes.
He's like, the bottom of your shoes are just really dirty. I'm like, well, let's, okay.
Yeah.
Welcome to Teague Talks. Today we're sitting down with Steve Palmer, founder and CVO of Indigo Road Hospitality Group. Steve, welcome.
Glad to be here. Thank you, Teague.
What is CVO for the
Chief Vision Officer.
So Indigo Road is a management company doing restaurants mainly, and then you've got into hospitality.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct. So we wholly own some of our hotels and restaurants. We manage, so lots of different deal structures, but yes.
So the real operations, okay, but the vision, chief vision officer
Yeah.
of this stuff. All right, so I'm excited. I want to dive in to this. So you got to, the reason we're here, we got to know, how did you get started in this business?
I
Give me
grew up in
Steve.
Atlanta.
Great.
And started washing dishes when I was 13 at Yin's Chinese on Chambly Dunwoody Road. I random various Steak and Shake on Roswell Road,
Excellent.
Sandy Springs, Houston's on Lenox Road,
Flipping burgers, fries.
yeah, the whole thing. And quickly, after burning my hands and being yelled at,
Yep.
I was looking out into the dining room, going, "That looks like the better place." Just really. At a very early age, I was very fortunate. I met my first mentor, and he said to me, now, this is going to sound commonplace now, but this was 1991. There was no internet, no Top Chef, no foodies, nothing. And he said, Steve, people go out to have an experience. If they went out just to eat, they would stay home and save the money. And that was, at 22 years old, that was like... And I really realized at that point that serving others was where I found an immense amount of satisfaction. And even though, especially back then, hospitality, restaurants were kind of looked at as a transitory, this is what I'm doing till I figure out what I'm doing. I never saw serving other people as a second-class job. It was something for me. We get to be a part of anniversary dinners, first dates, the date you're not supposed to be on, divorce parties. We get this intimate view into people's lives, and we always talk about service is transactional, meaning we brought you the right plate, we brought you the hospitality is how we make you feel, and so kind of was like, I'm pretty good at this. I was living in Charleston at the time, and just kind of woke up on my 25th birthday. I remember very distinctly going, what am I going to do with my life? And I'm already doing it. I love it. And I've never done anything but this.
So how did you get from simply serving, being a manager, to ownership and taking over?
Yeah,
give me that transaction.
You mentioned it a little bit before our talk. What I love about this business is I always say everybody's welcome at the table.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how you grew up. It doesn't matter if you have a degree, don't have a degree. In hospitality, if you're willing to work hard and be a part of a team, there's a place for you. And not only is there a place, you can thrive. So I got, real passionate about wine. This was the mid-90s. Got real passionate about the soil, the winemakers. I traveled all over the country. Became a general manager. Worked for Ritz-Carlton hotels before Marriott acquired them back in the Horst Schulze days. And really just continued to work hard. I'm somebody that I'm a big believer in dreaming big and seeing what's possible. And it was an interesting time in my life. I professionally was soaring. Personally, a lot of mental health issues, substance issues, which have been prevalent in our industry. But my love for hospitality kept me very engaged, and always sort of pushing the ball forward. And in '09, when everything had collapsed, I got laid off like so many other people. And a lot of times, Teague, I call myself the accidental entrepreneur. I took over a restaurant that wasn't doing very well in '09 called Oak Steakhouse in Charleston. It will celebrate 20 years in January. And that began the road that we're currently on, where we own, operate, and manage 36 restaurants.
Ooh.
And then we have hotels and also restaurants within those hotels. And we worked on this project in Atlanta called the Claremont Hotel.
Yep.
And everybody knows the Claremont Lounge.
Great one.
And we were doing the F&B, and the developer had another management company doing the rooms. And I just at the time was like, we should just be doing both of this. We care deeply about hospitality. Our culture really is our key to success. We care deeply about this belief that in order for the guest to have a truly hospitable experience, that the employee has to have a hospitable experience first. And so we work real hard on that. And as we've seen our company grow and go to different markets, and our culture, I always say culture is a business model. It's not just a feel-good word. I can show you our most profitable businesses and say the culture is the best here. So they're interconnected. And I just kind of said, hey, I think we should start managing hotels. And that was in 2019. COVID hit. And so
oops.
So then it kind of all stopped. And in the middle of COVID, we got the opportunity to buy Skyline Lodge up in Highlands.
Yep.
And we were just going to be the manager, and the buyer backed out. Crazy finance development, seller finance, the renovation with no real loan. I mean, crazy stuff, but it all worked out. And now we're very much in the hotel space. We're boutique, independent, and our real belief, somebody once said, you might ask your restaurant guy to manage your hotel, but you would probably never ask your hotel guy to manage your restaurant.
So why is that? Because I was thinking here, I was like, what's the difference in what's harder? Which one's harder?
Right. Well, I think it starts first and foremost. If you look at our mix of revenue, our restaurants are standalone businesses, and you know this.
Yep.
The age-old developers stick the 3-meal-a-day thing in the back of the hotel.
Yes.
And wonder why it doesn't do well. And so when we start to develop the hotel, we are simultaneously very much developing a restaurant. And I say it's not the hotel restaurant, it's a restaurant that happens to be in a hotel. And so far it's proving to be true. I mean, 50% of our revenue is food and beverage. And like here in Athens, there are many, many, many people that are coming to Osteria Olio every night that may or may not ever stay here.
Yeah, jump in. We probably jumped through that. Where are we right now?
We're in Athens, Georgia, at the Rivet House. It was a 100-year-old warehouse that was a denim factory. The little rivets on your blue jeans.
Okay.
And within that, we love Italian. We have 8 or 9 Italian restaurants across the Southeast. And we really started thinking about what is a hotel. It's an inn, it's a tavern. The word osteria in America can mean a million things, but historically speaking, an osteria was a tavern that was in an inn. So it welcomed weary travelers. It was that beacon of rest and comfort, sense of well-being, which I always say good hospitality should give you a sense of well-being. And so Osteria Olio was born, and we opened in June. It has been crazy, the reception here in Athens, so thank you, Athens. And we really look at them as 2 separate businesses that have to stand alone, that interact with each other in a really great way. And so we're finding success. I think we're unique in the space, but more and more, I think hotel developers, when you talk about Oh, it's a lifestyle hotel. Well, okay, there's a spa. That can be like, but sleeping in the bed is not lifestyle, right? The lifestyle is F&B.
Yes.
It's the lobby bar. It's the coffee bar. It's where you're working on your laptop. It's the dinner. It's F&B.
Well said.
So I think that if you get that right, this is a very long-winded answer to your question. I think it's harder to do great food and beverage than it is to manage a hotel room. And most hotel people I know would say that.
Yeah, I think I would say
I'm
that
not
too.
diminishing
No, I would
the
say
work
that.
that goes into that. But
What's your, help me, so this hasn't been open that long, but what's the mix of, I'll say local townies, Athenians versus hotel guests?
right now, about 70% local.
Oh,
You know,
congratulations.
obviously we opened in the off season
Sure.
in Athens. First home game is this weekend. Go Dogs! And
Dogs.
we weren't real sure. Middle of summer in Athens, Georgia.
Yes.
We've been packed like every night. It's crazy. It's wild.
Good. Is that because you're the hot new thing and the hot new
I
restaurant?
think
Everybody
so.
to try it out?
Yeah. James Whitley asked me, so is this the honeymoon period? And I said, I don't know. Sometimes we've opened things that are super hot for a minute, and then they don't like fall off a cliff, but they slightly cool. I'd like to believe that's not true. I'd like to believe that if we keep executing at a high level, that that won't happen. So we'll ask me again in 6 months.
Yeah, I will circle back.
You know?
I do. And just for everybody, so the hotel was developed by James and Jessica
Yes.
Whitley.
Yes.
They did a fantastic job.
Amazing.
Amazing job.
Amazing.
And with Steve's help and now operations, they can just hand you the keys and let you make it a success, right?
I mean, that's
that easy?
That's our goal, and it's that easy and it's that hard, right? They were fantastic. I mean, you hope when you're doing what we do, you hope to meet people with that kind of resources and vision and the discipline to see it all the way through. Look, we all know right now it's hard to develop. You're over budget, you're not on time. And James and Jessica just knew what, they didn't know what they wanted the restaurant to be. I think that's where I came in, but and Jessica, I mean, I couldn't ask to work with better people.
Yeah, and it seems, and put words in your mouth, it seems like most of the people that you're working with, for owners, partners, what have you, are people, not big corporate entities in the world that our space has evolved to. You're still much more smaller, much more, I won't call it mom and pop because that's not it anymore, industry anymore, but more people, which seems to be like a nice niche.
It's great. I mean, look, hospitality is about people.
Yep.
Right? And certainly commoditized hospitality has its place in our world. It's not what we do because I feel, I'm at a stage in my life, thankfully, that, we've had some success. I just want to work with people where our values align. We are absolutely about performance. We understand the investment that gets made, the expectation of ROI. But you hope that it can be something deeper than that. Because, by the way, I think you're more profitable when it is something deeper than that, because it means more. I'm not saying we would never work with, a commercial REIT or what, but again, the values would have to be lined up about what the goal.
No, we get it.
Yeah.
So you said going deeper, so I'm going to go deeper. I'm diving in.
Okay.
I hope you're okay with it. But so you wrote a book.
I did. So I wrote a book called Say Grace: How the Restaurant Industry Saved My Life. I use the word grace for two reasons. The one definition of grace is a gift freely given without expectation of return. When you give somebody grace, think about that. The other thing is we're both Southern boys. On Sunday at supper, you said grace. And so my father was a doctor in Atlanta. He died when I was 10. My grandfather, who was the captain of the Bulldogs and big hero, he died 9 months later.
Oh.
And I started drinking at 11, right away.
Oh, wow.
Ended up homeless in Atlanta in my teens at one point. So I have a story. It's I feel so incredibly blessed to be in this moment. And as I went through the process of getting sober and addressing addiction while working in hospitality, go ahead.
Yeah, how'd you get out? Who saved you?
The owner of a hotel and restaurant in Charleston, I came to work one day and he said, you can clean out your office or you can go to rehab. And the thing about addiction, and I say this a lot, it's the only disease that tells you you don't have a disease. Cancer patients are not walking around going, I'm fine. But addicts are walking around going, no, nothing to see here. And so that day, like every fiber in my being was like, I want to go have a cocktail because I don't want to deal with this. But for some reason, November 5th, 2001, I said, yeah, I'll try it. I was a somm, I was buying the wine. I had a wine collect, I didn't even know how, and as a culture, certainly in hospitality, we weren't really talking about mental health in '01. And then, kind of the advent of Food Network, you had these kind of bad boy chefs with the tattoos who were out drinking hard, and they became the real celebrities. So it was an interesting time, but I always had this desire to give back. I've watched some friends overdose. I watched some friends who really, really felt like working in hospitality and not drinking was not possible. And Teague, it's funny how sad, ironic, interesting, how opportunities sometimes present themselves. So we had a chef named Ben Murray. Ben helped me open Canoe in Vinings in Atlanta. And I had lost touch with Ben, but Ben, a mutual friend, reconnected us and said, hey, Ben's kind of a gun for hire, a consultant if you need help opening a restaurant. We're always short-staffed, always. And so I called Ben. He came to Florence, South Carolina to help us open Town Hall. Never saw him take a drink. You would never have used the words depressed and Ben in the same sentence. He was happy-go-lucky. So he left work and unfortunately shot himself in a hotel room. And, I can remember getting on the phone with his 80-year-old mom, and kind of the story unfolded. He had been in and out of detox. He would never go to those meetings. And the real sad thing about that night, there were 3 sober chefs in the kitchen that if Ben would have just said like, hey, I'm struggling, can you tell me what you're doing? Because I can't seem to grasp it. So I went to a buddy of mine in Charleston, Mickey Baxt, who is a sober restaurateur. We don't work together. And I just said, we've got to do something to make, I always say it, to make it okay to not be okay. To normalize, hey, I'm struggling, I need some help. And so we decided we would start a little local group called Ben's Friends in Charleston. It's a weekly 1-hour meeting run by sober hospitality people for people that are struggling. And honestly, Teague, we thought, okay, this will be this cool little Charleston thing. Not long after that, Anthony Bourdain, the TV chef who was on CNN and traveling the world, he committed suicide. He was such an icon to the chef community especially. They saw him as, here's the rock and roll guy that struggled with heroin, that spoke their language. He's being paid millions of dollars a year to fly all over the world and eat, and he's not happy. And overnight, the New York Times called, what's Ben's Friends? LA Times called. That's when Forbes got in touch and I wrote the book. So Ben's Friends is now in 24 cities across America. It's from New York to LA to San Francisco. We just opened in Miami. There's one in Atlanta. We have 21 Zoom meetings. So during COVID, we were like, all right, let's get on Zoom. And every day at 1, we have a national meeting. And maybe Monday, the lead in Austin, Texas will lead it. Well, we kept them because we work such odd hours. So now there's 21 Zoom meetings a week. There are late night meetings. I just got off work at 11. There's women's meetings, men's meetings. We have people from Europe dialing in now. So it's become this massive movement in hospitality, and thankfully, kind of coinciding serendipitously with a lot more openness about mental health. Like we're just all kind of, I can remember when I first got sober. This is a small example, but I would be sitting at a restaurant and I'd say, "Oh, I don't drink," and there was kind of this, okay.
Yeah.
And now every cocktail list has 0 proof or
Correct.
mocktails.
It's a big thing now.
And nobody even, it's interesting socially, because I was 32 when I got sober, so I was very much single, like how am I going to date, how am I going to do all these things? Now I'm like, oh, I don't drink, and people are like, oh,
Cool.
okay, and and by the way, that's a gift. The last thing you want to do is like have special attention on you. Is it going to bother you if I drink? It's going to bother me if you keep asking me that. But so we started Ben's Friends. So it's an extension of this idea of culture, this idea of a hospitable experience. So we think we've got to first treat our employees right, secondly treat our guests right, obviously, but the third is the community, and that's a big piece for us. And obviously Ben's Friends is the larger hospitality community, but within each city we really like to be involved in local charities that are making a difference, and so all of that is kind of interconnected to our success.
Yeah, you have, before I move on, how do we get in touch with Ben's Friends? For people out there, dare I say, that are struggling or that have a friend that is, or
thank you.
or want to contribute, how do we give me that?
BensFriendsHope.com. And we're right there, and you can, all the meetings are listed. You can donate if you want to. The 1 o'clock Zoom meeting, you just hit one link and you're there. So everything you need is at BensFriendsHope.com.
That is awesome. And this was not intended to be a plug for that, but that's a very powerful story. So,
well,
wow.
Thank you. I mean, it's part of it, and I think beyond addiction, it's this idea that we truly care about our employees. We have a home loan buying program. We provide free mental health, but at a time, which although all of that feels intuitive, right? We kind of came out of COVID, and all these people left the hospitality industry.
Yes.
And I mean, there were days in those first 18 months where, can we open tonight? If one more person calls out, walks out, doesn't show up, we got to close. And so we're just so focused on, I think you would agree, A, you got to take care of the employees that you have. B, we need more people to come back. We got to make the industry more attractive to people. And we're always saying we need to leave it better than we found it. And if we can do that, hopefully one day we won't all be going, short-staffed. You've heard it from every operator in the industry. Can't find people.
You can't find people.
Can't find people.
So we got to keep getting them back.
We've got to make it a career, provide health benefit, like all the stuff that makes it attractive.
And recruitment, and let's go, come on.
Yeah, and there's a path for you.
Correct.
People ask a lot, wow, you've grown fast. And I'm like, we provided growth opportunities for our best people. And I think that's a pretty awesome story in and of itself.
Love that. All right, so what's next for you?
So Oku is our sushi brand.
Okay.
I didn't used to use the word brand but that's our concept. We have 8 of them in the Southeast. So we're going to open in Alice Beach, Tampa, and West Palm. So we're getting fancy. We like Florida. We're looking at a lot of opportunities there. A lot of robust economic growth.
Everybody likes Florida.
Everybody likes Florida right now. Here's the irony. We opened in the middle of COVID. I got a call from a developer in Jacksonville Beach. Jacksonville is a great city. Certainly wasn't on our hit list. We opened at Jacksonville Beach, and it's the #1 Oku.
Oh.
It outsells Nashville, Charlotte, and so we're like, Florida, who knew? So we've got some hotel projects later next year, but the remainder of this year is kind of focused on Oku and in Florida.
Is that all you? Is that all your cap stack? Do you have partners? Are you just the operator? Are you the owner?
I have 2 partners who've been with me since the very beginning. The 3 of us wholly own Oak Steakhouse in Oku. We have an operating partner, Oku. But then we have different investors in different projects, and We have a family office in Charleston that's invested in 8 or 9 of our projects, a family office in North Carolina. So we're always, love talking to new people that have capital but need an operator, obviously. But yeah.
Go dive down that road of sort of the advice, and I'm going to say, what advice would you give your younger self? But what advice would you give that next generation that's looking to get into this business?
My younger self, I would say, hang on, it's going to be really great. I mean, seriously, I would say this: choose who you work with wisely. I always get sad when I see somebody. Maybe what we're offering them, they're going to go to another company that's a move up, but the company itself is not a move up. It's just a title, and a lot of them come back. I would say, man, it's hard work. It's whether you're on the development side, all of us, we worked for years. I don't know that there's a fast path in hospitality, but I think it is definitely, you said it earlier, it's an arena for people who love it. And when you're around a bunch of people that love what they do,
right,
that's so enriching. And I think hospitality people are the best people in the world.
Yeah, we agree.
Well, because we connect.
We're biased.
We light up when we're very relationship driven. But yeah, I would say choose who you work with wisely. Don't be afraid of the hard work. It is going to pay off, even if you can't. I made some moves like Ritz-Carlton, where I took a job in a city that I was like, I don't really want to live in this city, but I'll go do 2 years here because then I can transfer with. Like I saw beyond the right here, right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Steve, this has been fantastic, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
for asking.
And so I'm wrapping up, and I'm thinking future here. So, but I'm really trying to tie hotel and restaurant together because, again, I'm a hotel guy. So, what is the future of the hotel space? But really, how can the hotels use restaurants? I'm thinking we got to get people out of the house. We got to keep them traveling.
Right.
We got to keep them going. So, what can we learn from your real core that's going to help the hotel industry?
I think first and foremost, during the development process, give the restaurant an equal seat at the table,
yeah, well
right?
Said. All right, yeah.
I think that's important, and
nice.
It really is from the beginning. It's branding it separately, all the things. I think, and we intersect with some brands a little bit. I think you've got to think about the restaurant differently. Well, we have to offer breakfast, lunch, and dinner. No, you don't. Have a coffee bar. Have the pastries homemade. I won't mention who, but there was somebody from one of the big brands was at one of our coffee bars, and they were like, "Oh, who are you buying these from?" We're like, "Well, we're making them here," and they couldn't, So I think you've got to. I think if you're a traditional hotel, you got to be willing to think outside the box. That's so cliche, but right. I think you've got to see your restaurant as a different thing than an obligation to check a list, and if you do that, you're going to hire different people.
Yes.
Now, they're not going to be used to. Most of our chefs are from freestanding outside of hotels, and so. You start talking about banquets and this and that, and it is there's nuance to it, and it's not forcing an artist to do, it's setting the restaurant up for success. The answer is always yes if we need something, but you really just have to think about it differently.
I just think it's fascinating because, again, I'm going to go old boring hotel space, a Hampton Inn, a Courtyard, right? And we were rooms, and that's where we made all the money.
That's where you made all the money,
right? And we cut everything else out because it was expensive. We were losing money.
Oh, yeah.
And you're the opposite. You're all but building, I'm putting words in your mouth, a hotel around a restaurant.
Correct.
We're going to do a restaurant, and everyone's going to come for this restaurant. And oh, by the way, we have these hotel rooms.
And the rooms are still more profitable, but the food and beverage, our food and beverage is immensely profitable. And that's a surprise, I think. When I quote some numbers to other developers, they're like, what? Like, yeah, I mean, we're 25% margin in F&B, and they just can't.
No.
So you got to be willing to think about it differently. You've got to hire the right people, but it really, I mean, it's the little things. But yeah, that's my hope.
But this restaurant, I'm just gonna pick on this. I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah.
I was gonna add, we're still going. So this restaurant it's not tucked in the back. It is out front.
It's out front.
You got its own entrance. It's out front. The bar's out front. Like there's a tiny little lobby to check into the hotel.
Right.
And a ton of space for a bar and a restaurant.
Right.
Not by accident.
Not tucked in the back.
Because they called Steve early on.
Correct.
You're welcome, Dink. Jack.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, if currently 70% of our business is local F&B, it's because they're pulling up out front and they're walking in the door, and they may not even ever go into the lobby.
Yeah.
And those things, it's so subtle. Put the restaurant in the front. Oh, yeah. No, but really, put the restaurant in the front, give it its own door,
Yeah, this is clearly a destination. Again, placemaking is the word we now use in our place, but it's clearly a destination. People are coming here.
Yeah, we're 10 minutes from downtown. We're not in the core where all the...
Yeah, right.
We're
right.
not.
They're not going to stumble past it. They got to want to come
all.
here.
Yeah.
Destination.
Yeah.
Good for you. Steve, this is fantastic. I've loved this.
Thank you.
And thank you, and I mean this sincerely, for opening up and sharing your story.
Of course.
I didn't know we were going to get there, but that is awesome.
Thank you.
Everything you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You bet.